Guys, we have been blown away with the response to our last video on the B7. So in this video we're going to do a follow-up on the big problem we found. In fact, it seems to be the big issue with the B7. We're sort of teasing you with it there. If you've watched our previous video on this where we bent the chassis, now we're not the only person to bend the chassis. I know, speaking to other people, we've had loads of comments, private messages, etc. through Facebook and the likes, and we don't seem to be the only person to bend the chassis. I'm still on the fence as to whether that's people just having big crashes, but shouldn't really be bending chassis, should we? Not really on a car like this. I don't know. That's not what this video is about though. But if you watched our previous video, we had a nice comment from, or a very detailed comment, I think it was from Big Buckarama, telling us, pointing us in another direction to look at what the problem is with this rear end of the B7. It does seem to be, if this is true, it does seem to be a fundamental production or design or quality issue with the car. So in this video, what we're going to do, we are going to tear down the B7 and look at it in detail so we can actually show you guys what this problem is and actually prove whether it is that problem or whether it's just a simple pin too long. We think the pin being, pin too short, not too long. Pin being too short, we think, is just a symptom of it. It's not the cause of it. So we've got the B7. This has only done one race meeting. We also have, just to play about, with a brand new B6.4, which I just want to look at some of the parts on that if we get time in this video. Don't want to bore you guys with an hour-long video on this. And we also have brand new B7D kit because we want to pull some brand new parts out to see if it's a one-off. Don't think it is. If it's a one-off, what the new parts are like. So watch on and see what's going to happen. So as we said, the big problem with these trucks, keep calling them trucks, they're not, they're buggies, off-road buggies, is this C-block. It pulls, the pin pulls out. Now we thought, obviously it was the pin just being too short, but we think actually there's a fundamental problem with the actual way the rear of the buggy, nearly called it a truck again, the buggy goes together. Now, unlike on a B6.4, the C-block, D-block even, D-block's the back one, goes through the chassis, so it really is mounted in there securely. With a B7, the chassis stops and it just goes into the gearbox. It then goes all the way up into this blue alloy, I think it's the same or very similar, ball stud, top ball stud mount. So you haven't got that strength from the chassis. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to take all the rear end of this off, so we've just got the C block, D block and the pins, so we can have a look in more detail. But you don't need to see me taking it to bits, do you? We've done a lovely build video which shows you how to do all that, so back in a sec. So guys, here we go. Here we have stripped all the rear suspension off so you can see a little bit easier. And as we said before, these pins appear to be too short. So what I have done is I have put on here a little bit of heat shrink so you can see the movement. Look, I'm just going to use some pliers. It moves. They move, which is not good. So what's happening, the pin moves back and then there's a very little pin recessed into your pill, and that's why it pulls out. And it does the same on that side as well. Now to compare, here we have one I prepared earlier, Blue Peter style. Not many of you remember that, will you? B6.4, exactly the same. This is a brand new kit. I can't move that pin at all. That is in there tight. Does not move whatsoever. So we think then the pins are too short on this. Well, they are, but there's a problem here. There is a problem here, and we can show you what is happening. With these calipers, I'm going to measure each distance. So the distance on that side, let's say 40.3. On this side is 40.9. This block in the back is not in square. So there's more pin on this side in there than that side. Both pins are too short. They still are both too short, but the rear of this is not square, and you can see it. You can see the gap over here is bigger than the gap there. this is really poor. Okay, it's only about 0.6 of a mil, but that is not what you expect from a premium buggy, which Associated apparently have done all the prototyping, testing. Even if you watch their video series, they've said about the tolerances on it. So that really is not good. And if we strip this down further, we can see what has actually happened. And again, just as a comparison on the 0.4, I'll measure each side of this. 37.8. This side, 37.9. In fact, I think, yeah, 37.84 in fact, 37.9 with tolerances on this. I mean, they're exactly the same. So what is the problem? Well, we're going to take this off and we'll have a look and we'll show you. And there's actually a clue when you remove it. These should, I think, be quite an easy fit into this top blue top stud or ball stud top link mount, but they don't. And we'll show you. So this part is fine, the D block is fine. It's this gearbox mount. These holes are not mounted, or the tolerances on these holes are not the same. The one on this side is a fraction further towards the back of the car, which in actual fact rings true because most people are pulling out this side. Now of course a longer pin will solve the problem, will certainly fix the problem to a degree, but the root cause, I think, is that, and it's exaggerated by the two shorter pins. So guys, here we have a B6 gearbox, a brand new one out of my other kit, and if we measure that side of the hole, it is about, what we got? We've got about 2 mil, and on this side it's about, well, it's nearly 3 mil actually. So there's clearly a difference, and again it can be seen when you put the block on. I'm just going to put the block on, I'm not even going to put the pins in this time. It doesn't actually fit through there freely because what's happened is these holes aren't completely all lining up. So when you put that on there, we'll just do this up. So we've got that on there. And I don't know if you can see, it probably doesn't come out that well on camera, but it is. It's only a small amount, but again, not good. Measure that side. This side here is about 40.3. And that side is 40.7. So again, you're only talking fractions, or, you know, 0.5 millimetre, not even that, is it? But it's not good. I'm just going to put the wishbones back on, and you will see the difference. There's more play on this side than there is in that side. So we just put the rear end back together, and look, I hope you can see this side, quite a bit of play. You can actually even see the silver part of the pin in between the shim there. This side, obviously we always have play on these buggies, but this side a little bit, not a lot, whereas this side considerable amount of play. So what's the solution? Well, the real only proper solution is for the rear gearbox casing, these parts, to be made correctly so that these two holes are the same distance. Again, once you know it, once you can see it, you can actually see the distance. This is only 1/4 mil, perhaps 1/2 mil, depending on how you measure it, but it is different. So it means that those distances between the C and D block are different on each side. Longer pins obviously help. They sort of really solve the problem. But it's a band-aid, you know. Don't really expect that sort of issue on these types of buggies. Other people I know have turned around the C block so the pills hang out a bit further, so the pin goes further in the pill, but then the pill's not as far in the C block, and you then have to